What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to my channel, and today I want to hit the nail straight on the head and I want to talk about something that's been trending all over social media, gaming, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and it's the talk about $80 games. Now, if you don't know, apparently $80 games are coming. Yes, it's increasing from $69.99 to $79.99. And people have mixed feelings about it, right? Some people are pro $80 video games, some people are against it. And I really want to talk about it. I want to address it because a lot of things have came out. A lot of CEOs have been speaking on the likelihood of games going to $80 and how they feel about it. And I want to set the record straight on a couple things. So this video is not going to be as polished as my last one. There's no script to go off of. I'm just literally going off the top of my head and just giving my true feelings about it. So let's get into it. So the first thing that I want to dispel is the word broke versus cheap. And on social media, specifically Twitter, you see so many people who are against $80 video games being called broke, right? And it's not that these people are broke, in my opinion. It's that you could call them cheap, right? You could use that word cheap instead of broke. These people just feel like this is not worth X amount of money, so they are not willing to pay that. And for some people that are willing to pay that, you could call them cheap, but that does not mean that they don't have the money to afford it. You know, personally, I feel like anyone that's on gaming Twitter talking about games, going over game discourse, I'm sure that they have, at least $70, $80 to pay for a game, right? If they were paying $70, $10 more is not much more expensive, but it's the principle about it. So let's actually talk about it. Let's talk about why someone would be against that $80 video game, because I know a lot of times there's insults being thrown back and forth, there's buzzwords being used like support the developers, but there's no real explanation as to why someone is either pro or against $80 video games. So let's get into why you would be against it. I feel like the first big issue is that these games are unfinished. Now, what I mean by that is that these games are unpolished. I recently transitioned to PC, and I've seen the real issue that a lot of people talk about with PC when it comes to unoptimized, unfinished, unpolished, buggy, glitchy games, right? And the same thing is being shown on console. A lot of these games are coming out with day one bugs. They need patches. We got games that aren't really optimized with the PS5 Pro and the hardware that the PS5 Pro has. It's just like a general base game. And for someone to pay $70 to have your game crashing, or to have anomalies on your screen, or to have glitches day one, it's disheartening and it's frustrating, right? Because you want a finished product. You paid finished product price, you should have a finished product. But a lot of times it's not that. Now I know it's going to be incoming comments saying, oh, I've never dealt with this glitch, I've never had this happen, I've never had this crash. But let's talk about another point that a lot of people have issues with, and it's these half-baked games, right? These developers make a game and they sell you the first half and they sell you the other half later on, but it's the same title. We see this a lot with these live service games. We see this a lot with these single player games. And it's to a point now where a lot of people miss the old days where you would get a single player game and a multiplayer included day one, right? That's something that a lot of people miss. A lot of people don't like being nickel and dime for expansions and DLCs and characters and skins and maps. I mean, there's so many tactics that these companies use to extract more money later on that it's frustrating, right? It's like, oh, I bought the game already. Why do I have to buy these little things? And we understand microtransactions are part of the industry. I get that. But then these companies come out with a definitive edition months or a year later with all the DLC for one fixed price. And that kind of leads me into my third point, which is the precedence that it sets. Now, a lot of people have been talking about Grand Theft Auto 6 and the potential of it being $100, and they've even mentioned NBA 2K and them, jumping to the $70 bandwagon before everyone else. But NBA 2K, Madden, Call of Duty, GTA, those games are megalodons when it comes to the gaming industry. Meaning that, they're the big dogs. They can charge whatever they want, and their core following are going to pay that price every time. A game like Borderlands, right, that's came out or is coming out and is getting a lot of flack for potentially being $80. Borderlands, to me, is a bargain bin game. It's a game you get for $30. Sometimes you wait a couple years, you get it for $10, $15 on a Steam sale or a PS sale. It's not that it's a bad game. It's just not a game that a lot of people go run out, buy day one, put hours in for the full year, and then replay or play again. It's just kind of like a one and done game for a lot of people. And then even if you're someone who say, hey, look, I love the story of Borderlands, I play this game all year long, you know, this is my daily driver everyday game. One thing that I think you can't deny, and this is not just for Borderlands, but pretty much all these games that are dropping, none of them feel next gen. They're not taking the game to the next level graphically. Sometimes they're reusing assets, sometimes they're missing voice acting. I mean, they're cutting cost, even to the point of only getting digital releases. But a lot of those savings and a lot of those cost cuts are not being passed back to the consumer. And I understand, look, it's business. So people want to find ways to make that bottom line look as good as possible. But if games are not getting physical releases and these companies are saving on printing, manufacturing, distribution, things like that, and it's just direct to consumer, they need to be dropped down to the $50 range, like how we've seen with Oblivion remake and Expedition 33 and a lot of these other games that have came out and sold gangbusters, right? These games are selling very, very well, and they're at that $50 price point. Split Fiction's another one. And you know, it's going crazy. That $50 point is probably the sweet spot currently. And look, a lot of this video is my personal opinion, but if you've been looking at the numbers, right, because numbers don't lie, a lot of these publishers and developers have been complaining about sales. Sales are down. These games don't perform to their expectations. This is something that we've seen pretty much across the whole industry. Besides maybe the biggest games, and even those games, you know, aren't doing as well as what they once were, but games are not performing up to expectations, and that's a big problem. And obviously, if you raise the price on something and you make it a little bit more unattainable, or you just make people have to now think twice about purchasing it, because maybe that is not that the product is unattainable, but now it's more so consumers have to actually be a little bit more picky. They're not going to necessarily pay for a Borderlands when there's a Mafia and potentially a GTA and a Call of Duty coming out within the span of the same month, for example. Granted, we know GTA is pushed back. I'm just giving an example. They may skip a Borderlands, or they may skip a smaller title or something that they may have paid for, just because it's just a little bit more expensive now. I'm done yapping, but I want anyone who is pro $80 video games to come in the comments and let me know. A lot of people have these allegiances with these companies and these corporations, and you know, that's fine, but sometimes they mistake their position as consumers, right? Like they're business owners and they're not. You guys are consumers. And I don't understand, in any world, for any product, whether it's cars, homes, sneakers, whatever it is that you're looking for, consumers never want to willingly pay more for something. So that support the developers talk, or that, hey, I'll pay $80 because it's $80, that doesn't fly. So I want you guys to really come down in the comments and give me some logical explanations as to why paying more for video games is good to you.